Hello, my name is Ray Salazar, and this is Morning Reel, a 3 or 4 or 100 minute or so podcast of films that I review, whether they suck, whether they're from outer space, or whether they were just made yesterday, guerrilla style. I'm gonna review it. Yeah, let's get this. I'm excited to review this film. I'm all about family. I'm all about relationships between human beings, as far as like how we honor those who have taught us and nurtured us in our journey of life. Watching this film kind of opened my eyes a little bit, or rather reminded me of what's important in life. You know, obviously, success is one of them, becoming a successful person, also becoming a true person. And by being true, those who are really close, they are true to you, and you are true to them. Everybody should at least watch one Yasujirō Ozu film. Now, the film that I'm going to talk about is from Ozu, called Tokyo Story. It's a 1953 Japanese drama film directed by him, starring, and forgive me if I can't pronounce these right because these are a little bit challenging. Krishurayu Chieko Higashiyama, Kyoko Kagawa, Haruko Sugimura, So Yamamura, Koniko Miyaki, Shiro Osaka, Eihiro Tono, Nobu Nakamura, Isao Toke, Mutsuku Sakura Toyo Takahashi, Sachiko Mitani. Cinematography, Yuharu Atsuta. Edited by Yoshiyasu Hamamura. Music by Takunobu Saito. Now, I'm reading all this because this film is considered one of the greatest films of all time. Of all time, even to this day. Yes, I know Endgame, to some of you, is probably the greatest thing that's ever surfaced mankind. But before there was Endgame, there was this type of Endgame. I guess being disconnected from your family is sort of an endgame itself. Anyways, Tokyo Story deals with disconnection of family. So, to give you a brief description, just a very brief description, because with this film, I can really go all day, or rather, for the next 20. A pair of parents visit their children who are grown up and have children of their own from their hometown to post war Tokyo. Metropolitan, busy streets, commercialized, taking in the Western civilization. Now, this film isn't really about the Westernized. Well, there is a little bit of Westernization in this film. Anyways, parents visit their children. Their children are somewhat thrilled to have them, stay with them for a couple of days, or what it seems like a couple of days. But these people are busy, and you can see it. Some of them own shops, some of them are doctors. They got families, they got personalities, some more harsh than others. Their parents are excited to see them. And when you look at this film, and I'm not even talking about cinematography yet, but just looking at this film, this is a 2-hour film, by the way. Past 2 hours, really. And the kids don't really spend time with the parents. They're just busy. Now, I can relate. I think anybody who's still listening to this can relate as well. Sometimes you got a busy ass life. Sometimes life puts you in a place where it causes tension. It causes a rift of how you should balance your life, how you should balance your bond between family, especially your parents. I don't know if this is Japanese culture or whatnot or tradition, but when I saw this film, it just spills that it's so important to honor your parents. And by honoring them is to spend some time with them, especially if they're making a long train trip from one town to another. I mean, we all get it. It's always hard to just kind of not drop everything, but to drop certain things in your life so you can please others, you know? With family, with parents, it's just something you got to do no matter what. And this film really expels that very well. It's a very slow film and it slowly creeps up on you. I like that this film took its time to pretty much get in depth of family, you know, between two generations. It's a pretty strong film to watch. It's not a challenge to watch it. The only reason it's a challenge is because of the timing. It's very slow. When you look at it, you it's a little creepy to me. I don't know why. I don't know why it feels so creepy to me. It's just something about how Ozu places his camera as if one is kneeling on a mat or on a hard surface, and the camera's always there's not a shot where it doesn't tilt downward. It's always at a slight low angle looking up. So when you're looking at the characters, it's like if they're looking down on you in a sense, or rather when the characters have conversations with the other characters, it's like they're looking down on them. And there are some shots where the characters look like they're breaking the fourth wall, but I mean, there's a question there. Are they breaking the fourth wall? Are they actually talking to us while they're talking to the other character? Based on the subject matter, based on certain conversations, it really does make you feel like you're in that room. You're kneeling there, looking at this character spilling their guts out about, you know, loneliness, about how they wish that they can spend time with their loved ones, stuff like that. That's very powerful for even in that time because there weren't a lot of films in that time that were taking those kind of measures to advance or not advance, but well, yeah, it's to advance storytelling. It's very creative, it's very unique, and there's tons of films that adopted that type of style of filmmaking. It's a pretty well written film, and the characters bring the issues up at hand, especially between the parents and the children, and how the parents criticize the children's children and how their children criticize their parents in the sense. There's a lot of criticizing, there's a lot of selfishness in a sense. And it's funny because out of all the characters in the film, there's only one character. I think her name is Noriko, and she's probably the most, well, how we see it, the most selfless character in the film. And she's the in-law. She's a she's the widow of the parent's son who died in World War II. And out of all of them, she like really wants to be there with them. She serves them. She honors them by being with them to the point where it makes them feel so guilty because Noriko's character honors their family, but also honors her dead husband by having a picture on the wall in her apartment. And the parents, it's not that they hate it, it's just that they moved on and they want her to move on as well. And she keeps up a pretty high shield about that until one point where she just kind of lets it out. And even for the most selfless person, they think themselves are selfish because sometimes one person feels like they don't need certain things in life, but the things that we ignore the most are the things that we want the most, you know? And in fact, at the same time, we fear for it, like loneliness, you know? Some people feel that they're going to be alone forever. So they kind of do things to kind of distract themselves to ever feel that. But when the truth comes out, it comes out and it comes out hard. And it does come out hard in this film. It's a tragic film. It's a sad film with some hope. And it's crazy. It's sort of like a sacrifice in a sense. Ozu used this film as some sort of sacrament, and it taught us a lesson. At least it taught me a lesson, which is why I love film, because there are certain films that really just teach you a lesson. It it changes you. It changes who you are. Like, it's movies. We all know that. It's just stories. A lot of it is fiction. It's crazy that the motion picture can actually change a person's life, much like how music can change a person's life. And I'm not saying this film changed my life, but it definitely gives me a new perspective of being an adult and what it's like to honor your parents, what it's like to. It makes you think, it makes you wonder, it asks yourself, how am I doing? You know, am I doing good in life? Am I treating those around me great? Stuff like that. That's It's pretty deep stuff, because I'm in my very early 30s. People around my age demographic, some people are lost. Some people don't know what to do with their lives. They don't know if the career that they have right now is the right career, or there's just all kinds of things going on, your love life, your you know sharing yourself with somebody else, stuff like that. Like, sometimes you just wonder, and this film kind of did that in 2 hours. And my favorite scene in this whole film, I've done a good job not spoiling this film, and there's a thing in the film. There's a scene that happens after the thing where the youngest daughter talks about how her siblings are so selfish. And I was just waiting for a scene like that, because when you have some selfish siblings who you just know the selfishness, and it makes you mad, and it makes you feel like, man, like, why are you so selfish? Like, how can you be like this at a time that is very sad and distressing? How could you, right? But at the same time, some people can't help who they are and how they act. And there's other characters who, as much as they don't like it as well, they just have to understand it, because, when we disconnect from our parents, in a sense, we obviously become who we are. And we kind of lose sight on, like, on what our parents taught us. And I like that type of dilemma was called upon in that scene. And that scene was like 3 minutes or 4 minutes long. And I'm not saying that's like the most important scene in the film, but it just gives you that gratification that there are people who give a crap, and there are people who kind of lose sight on things like that. And the last thing I really want to point out and talk about, how this film just kind of, like, at least for me, captivates the viewer, is shots of scenery, like a train passing by, clothes hanging on a fence, a shot of Tokyo, a shot of the river. All great things to look at, even though it's black and white and shot on a 4:3 format. This film is very tense. And I don't know if this was Ozu's, like, intention of having these shots inserted in between scenes, or rather to transition to another part of the scene. But when you look at nature, don't you, or like rather, you ever go to the woods and, like, just sit down and you just look at what's in front of you, and it's just so peaceful and away from all kinds of problems. Don't you ever wish you can just kind of do that, like, all the time when you face some sort of problem, some sort of dilemma, you just want to go away and just be with nature and kind of, quote unquote, forget about your problems? Well, I feel like that was Ozu's intention, because you see this tension build up and build up, and then you see a scene of nature, and then all of a sudden, you just kind of not forget what's going on, but you just feel for that moment, for maybe those 10 seconds of film, you feel some sort of bliss. And I think that's beautiful. My name is Ray Salazar. Rate and review this podcast. Rate and review this episode. Follow me on IG. Follow me YouTube. Morning Shot Films. Thank you.